Oh my lord. Well, it's the middle of, well, you wouldn't think it was nearly the middle of May. Jesus Christ. Been rained on, hailed on, high wind, and it's freezing bloody cold. There's not a sign of the sun in the sky apart from the fact that it's light and not night time. I'm piss wet through, as you can see. Anyhow, oh my god, what's that? What the hell is that? It burns. It's the frigging sun. Jesus Christ almighty. Anyhow, here we are on another Walkie Talkie Wednesday, as I chat shit about, Christ almighty, nearly fell then, as I chat shit about usually video game related stuff, while I have a walk around this here water park. Crikey, what a start. At least it's eased up for now, but I mean, on the way here, honestly, it's just not gonna be defeated by the weather in this country. If you do, you never step out the front door. Anyhow, let's do me a little catch up. So I think I'm into the final part of my Doom the Dark Ages playthrough. I think I've got 4 chapters left, and on the playthrough it works out, generally speaking, about about a chapter a day. So, as generally speaking, I do 4 videos a week. I reckon by next week I'll have it done, and then my intention then is to move on. I think I'm going to start a Resident Evil playthrough, and we'll start with Resident Evil 0, because in the main line of games, that's sort of a prequel to the original. Well, it's more of a side thing to the original, and then I'll play through the remastered original. Now, I do have the original, or well, actually it's the director's cut of the original PlayStation version. I have that on the PS5. But I think I'll do what was originally the GameCube version, because I think that's the superior one, to be honest. So I'm going to do that one, and then we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. Now, I'm probably not going to be playing them on the harder difficulties, because I love the games, but I'm atrocious at them. Generally speaking, I am atrocious at survival horror games, even though I like them. I mean, the inverse is true. I have a strong dislike for one-on-one fighting games. I have played a few in my time, going all the way back to Way of the Exploding Fist on the C64, which I wasn't actually too bad at. IK Plus. Well, there was International Karate, then there was IK Plus, which was like its sequel, which is widely regarded as one of the finest, if not the finest, one-on-one beat-em-up on the old C64. And I enjoyed playing that, and I enjoyed playing it with my mates when I was a kid. But as There's no swans or geese or ducks, I don't blame them. They're probably hiding out somewhere in their lair. But yeah, as fighting games got a bit more complex, so I started to discover how rubbish I was at remembering movesets, and that was it for me. Mortal Kombat on the Mega Drive and Mortal Kombat 3 on the PlayStation, that was the last time I would say that I had any degree of competency in a beat 'em up. These days I don't touch them. A few years ago on the PS3 I got, was it Street Fighter 5? Or 4 or 5, I can't even remember. And I was bloody hopeless at it. I mean, I was hopeless at the original Street Fighter, if I was honest. Oh, you bird. I was pretty crap at that. But yeah, the PlayStation version of Mortal Kombat 3. Again, I was playing with friends at the time, so it was more not the fact that I was any good, but more the fact that I was having a laugh. And that sort of, in a roundabout way, brings me on to the topic of this week's video. I follow Simon Butler on X, Twitter, X, whatever. I still call it Twitter. I just think X is so nondescript. When you used to say I'm going to tweet something, everybody knew what you were saying, but now I'm going to X something, and that doesn't really sound right, does it? Sounds like you're about to bump somebody off. And then alternatively you've got, I'm going to post something. Well, that's very generic because you post on everything. You know, you post on Discord, you post on Facebook, you post on Instagram, you post on YouTube. You know, you post everywhere. When you tweeted, it was very specific. As the rain comes tumbling down. Oh God, hang on. Let me hoist the hood up again. I hope this doesn't blow my microphone up. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. And he was talking about like somebody who had said that they thought that Super Mario Brothers 3 was shite, and and they were inviting people to argue, and the ultimate reason they gave was because they didn't like that genre of game. Well, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that the game's shite. Just because you don't happen to like a genre of game. I'm just trying to adjust my my coat here so the microphone's still dry-ish. Just because you don't like a genre of game, it doesn't mean that that game's shite. I think some people don't understand subjective and objective arguments. I just did a William Shatner pause there, didn't I? Subjective and objective arguments, subjectivity and objectivity. Subjectivity is your opinion, your view. Objectivity is when you're pointing out a fact that is universal. Let me give you an example. RoboCop on the Commodore 64 when it come out. My subjective view was part of that game was good. First part of the game was good. I can't really tell you about the second part of the game because it was broken. And therefore, I don't think it deserves the status of being a classic game or being regarded as a great game. It's not raining again. This is what it's going to be like. It's going to be on and off, isn't it? So, objectively, game is broken. I don't know if you can hear that, but those electricity pylons up there are buzzing, and not because they're happy. But yeah, objectively, the game is broken and you can't finish it unless you use the cheat code. Now, the subjectivity comes in where I say that game was broken and you could only complete it back in the day by cheating. Yeah, they may have fixed it a few years later, but back then, when it come out, you couldn't finish it without cheating. I don't like cheating in games. It seems to defeat the objective of being challenged and rewarded through challenge. Now, you know, I will hold my hands up. I put God mode on when I was doing my Doom playthrough for certain sections, which were nightmarishly difficult. But I did it because I was doing a playthrough and I didn't want to have hours and hours of video of me just doing the same old thing. I didn't think that represented a very good entertainment on a playthrough video. But then I would switch it off when I got past that bit. But that was purely to expedite what I was doing at the time. So, but if I wasn't, if I was just playing through the game and not creating a video, then I wouldn't have used it. But back to the point, I just wanted to qualify that because I have used it, but I used it for a specific purpose, for a video. I play through them games personally and don't cheat because I don't like it. It seems pointless. You know, I've finished them games without cheating, without putting the God mode on. But like I say, I was creating a piece of entertainment, I was creating a video. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, because of that with RoboCop, I don't regard it as a classic game. I don't regard it as a great game. I regard it as a game that had potential to be really good. Now on the Spectrum, it was a classic game. On the Spectrum, it was superb. It was superior to the C64 version. And as far as I was aware, playing around at my friends at the time who had a Spectrum, it didn't have a game-breaking bug in it like the warehouse level. I think it's level 6 on the C64 version you can't do. And then if you cheat to go to the next level, because that was the only way you could do it back in the day because the timer wasn't set correctly, just adjusting this damn coat again. It's one of these waterproof things. Yeah, if you then do it again, you then go to the next level, all the graphics are scrambled and you can't do it because there's a game-breaking glitch. So you can't actually tell where you need to go. All the background graphics were all messed up. So, subjectively, I think it's half a decent game, half a good game, but it's not a classic. I would have scored it about 48%. Because if I'd have scored it 50%, it would be saying that the playable parts were all perfect, weren't. That's subjectivity, because that's me. Somebody else might say, well, I don't mind cheating past the broken bits. I'll give it 90% because I think what was there, what worked, looked and sounded great and played superbly. That's fair enough. But the objective part is that the game was broken. That was a universal truth. That's not debatable. No one who got Robocop, was it 1988? When it came out in 1988 on the C64, can argue that the game wasn't broken. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just my copy. You go on the internet and there are discussions about it. And it was years later when I got the internet, because I did actually take the game back, thinking I got a dodgy copy, and then the replacement copy I got from W.H. Smith, that was broken as well. So that's a basic example, very basic example of subjectivity and objectivity. So what does this have to do with saying that Super Mario Brothers 3 was shite? Well, people who are fans of scrolling platform games, the vast majority of them will tell you it's one of the best. It was technically superb, bearing in mind it was running on the NES, which was, when it came out, it was probably a console that was knocking on a bit at the time. Look at this weather now. Just look at that. Bloody sun out. You can see all the clouds. In addition, you can see that, like I say, a lot of people will tell you that we're fans of that genre. Now, the guy in question, it's fine for him to say he thought it was shite if you don't like that genre. That's fine. But you have to qualify your statement and say, in my opinion, I think it's shite because I don't like scrolling games. However, I can appreciate that it is a technical masterpiece and an outstanding video game. That's how I rate modern day fighting games. They're like some of the best ones, like the Street Fighter games. I understand that people love them. I understand that people love Street Fighter 2. I don't, because I'm crap at it. I wouldn't spend money on it because it's not my type of game. But that doesn't mean to say that it's crap. In no way would I say that it was crap. That would be ridiculous. I'm not the target audience to begin with because I don't like one-on-one fighting games. Now, I used to like scrolling beat-em-ups like Streets of Rage, stuff like that. I love them games. But the one-on-one fighting games are just not my thing. And as I say, I did try a few down the years. But as they got more technologically advanced, and the more that the controllers got more buttons and the movesets become more complex, and I fell by the wayside with it. It's just, in the heat of fighting, I'm just not that good. But I can tell you right now that they are superb, brilliant games. That they are, Street Fighter 2, for example, in the day, I could tell you that was superb. I could tell you how brilliant that game was. I could tell you how excellent those games are, and a lot of them that came after. All of those things I can tell you. I can say that because it's subjectivity and objectivity. Objectively, I can say those games are brilliant. That is a universal truth. held by many people, the majority of people that have played that game. That is a universal truth. What the hell have they dumped here? Oh my lord. A kitty litter. But subjectively, I don't like it because I'm crap at it. And like I say, you can't make a statement that says a game is shite, fight me, without qualifying it. You can't come back later on and then give a clause to that statement, because that invalidates your original statement. You invite people to fight you. And by the way, I must clarify, it wasn't Simon Butler that was saying this. He was arguing the same argument that I am. And I agreed with him. You know? Two things can be true. You can dislike something but acknowledge that it's brilliant or superb, and that it is a technical masterpiece. It's the same with movies. It's the same with music. It's the same with books, because that's down to personal taste. And personal taste is not a universal truth. It is an individual truth, held only by yourself, not by others. People might dislike a game for different reasons than you do. That's their subjective truth. And I think people on the internet tend to forget this sometimes. They tend to make these statements and then try to qualify it later on by just simply saying, well, it was my opinion. No, that's not how you presented the argument in the first instance. You presented it as a universal truth. You presented it as if that was a thing that was held because there was technical issues that broke the game. You know, that it was unplayable, had many game-breaking bugs that weren't random, you know, that would soft lock the game, and no matter what you did, that would happen in the same place. Then you can make those arguments as a universal truth. But you can't make those arguments as a universal truth when it's just because you don't like that genre of game. And like I say, I see this quite a lot on the internet, and this was something I learned when I was at school many moons ago, many decades ago now, it seems. We learnt that. We learnt that, the difference between subjectivity and objectivity in creating an argument. Because it encompasses a whole manner of things. And if you're going to put yourself out there as a games critic, which I don't, I just talk about games, but I'm not a critic. I don't put myself out there as that. Or, some sort of historian, a lexicon of gaming, where you market yourself as having a exhaustive knowledge of games from the past, which again I don't. I just talk about stuff I remember. I hold my hands up, and there's going to be inaccuracies because as I've said before in previous videos, I don't present myself as a gaming Wikipedia. I talk about games from my own personal experiences as it starts raining again. Because why not? For shit's sake. And the hood goes back up. But that's what I do. But I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling books. I'm not trying to make a living from this. I just talk shit. I just, shoot the shit about video games because it's all done from memory for me. This is what I experienced, and, your memory can fade. That's it. But when you put yourself out there, there is a standard that you set for yourself. You set yourself a standard that you're supposed to stick to, especially if you want people to buy stuff from you. There is a quality. If I was going to create a book or something about gaming, retro gaming, I would do a hell of a lot of research. I would absolutely be wanting to ensure that, the data that I accrue for the game that I'm talking about is verified from a number of sources, not just from, one location, or especially just from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a great starting point, but you have to dig deeper. It's not exhaustive. It's a quick reference that's full of inaccuracies. It's data that in Wikipedia that's cultivated from different people. Sometimes it's opinion-based rather than factually based. And it can be wrong. There are plenty of videos on there. I think there's a heavy metal YouTube channel. I think it's called Loudwire. I don't know if they still do, but they did run a series where people looked at their Wikipedia entry and then talked about how accurate it was. And the number of times they would say, that's not right, that's not true. Sometimes it's right, sometimes the truth is there of sorts, but it's not wholly accurate. But it's a starting point. And you have to... That was awesome, that. I was watching that swan coming into land there. You have to bear that in mind. You can't just do, if you're creating something and you want people to pay, you can't do the very basics. You have to do exhaustive research. And you also have to put that acknowledgement of your research at the end of the video or at the end of the book or whatever. You have to acknowledge other people's work. But the point, what I'm saying is, I'm getting away from my point is that two things can be true. You can dislike something, but that thing can also be superb. It can also be excellent. It's stopped raining again. Bloody hoods up and down. And that's the point I'm making. Ultimately, I think people are too fixated on being right, that their opinion is set in stone, that their opinion is right, is the right opinion. I have an opinion that is a fallible opinion, because it's just an opinion, it's subjective, but I want it to be the universal truth, because that validates me. That's how it seems to me. There's a tremendous fear of being wrong. There's a tremendous fear of being wrong on the internet, of making a statement and being wrong. Well, you can avoid that by doing exhaustive research, or just say it's a subjective opinion. It doesn't require anybody else's validation. It doesn't require a legion of people to agree with me. I know that there'll be many people that would not agree with my appraisal of RoboCop on the Commodore 64. I've, in this video, talked, I think, of sufficient length as to why I would only give it 48%. because I'm scoring it on what I could actually play at the time, which was very good. But sadly, the rest of the game was beyond playing legitimately because it was broken. And therefore, I cannot score the rest of the game. Now, if I'm being generous in saying that that was halfway through the game that I got where it broke, it might not be. I don't know. Like I say, I would score it based off the memory of me playing the game and my opinion at the time. And the fact that it was years later going on the internet, because obviously at the time there wasn't the internet, seeing that was universally, say universally, it was a hell of a lot of people experienced the same issue. So either there was a hell of a lot of unlucky people and there were some people out there that didn't have the issue, or the game was universally broken for everyone when it came out. I think it was 1988, maybe 89, I don't know, can't remember. I think the movie came out in 87. And I think it came out, well, the game definitely come out after the movie. So it could have been even 87, but it was around that era. And if you play it now in the modern day, the chances are you're playing a repaired, fixed version of the game that somebody else has gone in and fixed. But there was no way of doing that back then without a product recall. And I don't ever recall that. I don't ever recall there being a product recall. Anyway, that'll do. That's my point. Two things can be true. And I just think when people, especially when you talk about video games, people need to acknowledge that. People need to acknowledge that their opinion is great, but it's their opinion. And you have to qualify statements that you make. Otherwise, you are going to get blowback. People are going to push against it. And if you then later on you later on say, well, it's because I don't like that genre of game. Well, then that was the key information that was missing in your original statement. You have to have a bit more care. Oh, there's a dog carrying half a tree. You have to have a bit more care in what you're saying. Right, that'll do. I'm going to bugger off before that sky looks as ominous as all hell up there. So I'm going to bugger off before that sky gets here, which I've probably left it too late. But anyway, I'll catch you all later and hopefully see you next week. Bye-bye.